Oh, ain't heavy enough, Kev. Dadgummit. You're not helping. That's not helping, not even a little bit. I know you got good intentions, but you're really just not helping. The old AROS CAD program. Come on. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for nothing, Kev. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to start in on the gates on the latest 8-inch entryway that we've been working on. There's going to be 2 gates built out of 4.5-inch pipe, a little bit lighter wall. We're going to go with I believe it's a close to a 3/16 wall instead of like a quarter wall or heavier wall like we made the horizontals out of on the fence itself. I've started drawing it here on the concrete like I've done in the past on gates that I've built. I've got the hinges behind me here, the same style that I've used on gates in the past also. 4.5-inch pipe gate, a first for me. I'm excited. This hinge is made to slip over 4.5-inch pipe, and it's got a grease-zerk built in, and then it comes with 2 of these rings, which most generally I only use one just to hold the gate at the proper height, hold the hinge at the proper height on the gate. It is getting a horizontal piece, just like the previous gates that we've built. But as far as the main runners, it's going to have the exact same amount, 5 horizontal runners to match the fence. And yeah, that's what we're doing. But before we get started, I did want to visit with you about some help that we are potentially looking for. Kayla and I, Kayla's my wife, we are currently covered up, to say the least. We take care of the YouTube channel, the YouTube videos every week, as well as the service-based projects that we work on every week that I share here on this channel, along with keeping up inventory in the aross welding store, the industrial tradition store. And if you haven't been following along, we also have a beef program that we're starting, not so much starting. Kayla's family has had beef cattle for years now. So when I say just starting, I mean transitioning from selling like a whole beef to selling it by the cut is our goal. And we ultimately want to ship the beef, although we're not yet. Long story short, we have 2 or 3 different businesses that we are working on, and we just need some help. So we wanted to reach out to any of you who might be looking for any type of position. This is a very general outreach because we're not sure yet, and we don't want to hire just anybody. We want to find the right person that is super interested in what we have going on, and we just want it to be a good fit, if you will. So if you're interested in working at all in any of these things that I just mentioned, helping me, editing video, helping in the store, ship products and take care of inventory, learning how to fabricate, learning how to weld, filming, help filming videos around here or on projects that I work on, social media accounts. If you're interested in any of this type of work, text the word work to this number, 405-643-7176. By texting this number, you will then be put in the category of potential help for the aross welding brand / industrial tradition / Cabin Creek Farms, wherever you're interested in applying for. We don't know how soon we'll be making a hire. We're literally just putting our feelers out there, but if you are seriously interested, we want to hear from you. You can also text this same number to get updates on numerous things that we've talked about here on the YouTube channel, the aross welding shop, the products in the shop. When things become in stock again, you can text anything to this number, but if you want to get specific notifications, you can text the word shop, you can text the word trade school. You can literally text whatever you want to this number to get whatever type of notifications that you want to get personally, what you are interested in. We will then put you in a certain category. That way you don't get notifications that you're not interested in. Anyway, enough about that. Let's go ahead and get started on this gate project. All right, so with any gate that I build, the first thing that I need to know is my opening. So whenever I went to hang that art last time I was out on the job, I got my opening, pretending this is my 8-inch pipe. I got my inside to inside measurement, but I also got I found my centers of my horizontal 4.5-inch pipe. Then after I did that, I figured out where I wanted my gates to hang. In this particular situation, I'm not going to hang them directly inside because I want to maximize this opening of my entrance. So like whenever the gates are open, I want to have this full opening to drive through instead of hanging them on the inside, which I would lose my hinges and the width of my gate, which is 4.5 inches. So I had to figure everything to where the gates are going to actually live behind the 8-inch pipe, if that makes sense. And so what I came up with by the time I done all my takeoffs, if you will, the takeoff of my 4.5-inch pipe, the takeoff of my hinge and whatnot, I came up with just shy of 84 inches. Oh, and then of course the gap between both gates, which I allowed for 2 inches in between, and what I came up with was 83 inches and 7/8. So I'm gonna go ahead and check my measurement while I'm remarking everything. Now, a couple of lines that I have left are on either side of this chalk mark that I already have for our diagonal piece. I just measured 2.5 inches on either side of it because this is all 4.5-inch pipe that we're building this gate out of. And I want this diagonal piece to come pretty well directly into the throat of where these two pieces of 4.5 are gonna meet. So that's why I just measured on each side. And since I'm working by myself, I'm just gonna take this piece of pipe and set it on top of my chalk line, like so. I'm gonna lay this here, just pretty close to on top of my mark. I'm gonna go back down here, make sure this is on my mark. Pretty good. If I had a straight edge that was this long, I would just use a straight edge like I've been using. But since I don't, I'm just gonna use this chalk line. Okay, now we'll go ahead and move it over. Hopefully there's enough chalk left on the line. Move it on over to our next mark. Pretty not bad. Make sure it's hovered over our mark. Come down here. Check this one, not too bad. Okay, put a little tension on it, pop the line, roll up the chalk line, get a drink of coffee. It started to cool off here in Oklahoma. How's the weather where you're at? I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty well ready for the cooler weather. It's actually not too cool right now, but it has been is what I'm saying. So all right. Oh, you know what? I messed up on that. Not 2.5. That's 5 inches. I knew that looked off. My bust. My bust. Hold on. 4.5. I need 2.25. 2.25 on each side. Dadgummit. 2.25. Where was my head at when I said 2.5? I mean, just where was it at? I don't have any earthly clue. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do so I don't confuse myself some more. 2.25. Make these marks with this, but to do that I had to put a mark in the middle. Real good, pretty well good. All right, so pretty much disregard of the red marks. All right, now we're almost ready to cut some pipe. I just need to decide what I want to do right here. When I was first gonna build these gates, it was just gonna be squared off, or I was gonna actually miter this right here, put a 45, so it was just square versus them other gates where I come up the head of it. I feel like I still want to do that. So if that one's squared off, what do we want to do here? This is actually one of the reasons why I do like to draw something at its exact size, versus like drawing it on CAD. Don't get me wrong, I definitely want to learn and think it would be super valuable to have CAD and, you know, do all that. But one of the reasons I like drawing a gate or anything I'm building, life size, if you will, is so I can visualize what it looks like. It helps me on, like whenever I was deciding how far up to come here, you know, because technically it's kind of like art. You know, I never see myself as an artist, but that's essentially what it is. And so to make it look right or look good, I like to visualize, actually look at it and visualize how far up that is compared to the angle of this. Whenever I was deciding how much to run this up right here, I actually measured up like this to wherever it was going to be, which was 74. So it was roughly right here. That's from the ground, but this gate isn't going to be on the ground. It's going to be lifted up off the ground yay far. So that puts the top taller than me. That puts the top of the highest part of the gate a little bit taller than me. And I just sat back and I just felt like that was the right height. I don't know how else to explain it. In comparison with how much of an angle this was, because depending on how high we go there, depends on the angle of this. And since these are short gates, in my opinion, to make it look the most appealing, if you will, I didn't want it to be too far angled up. So again, that's just my feeling, my taste. And the customer on this particular project has told me several times to just go with my gut, essentially. I can't remember the words he's used, but he keeps calling me an artist. And like I said, I've never thought of myself as an artist, but since he's told me that a couple of times, it really has made me notice that I kind of am, you know, as weird as that is or whatever. Like, or to me it's weird. It's an unknown world to me, but that's essentially what I've always done when it comes to building stuff. I just proportion what looks right, what looks the best. And so as I talk about a lot with fence, it's kind of the same when I'm building a custom gate, unless of course I'm building from prints, you know, like an engineer has already designed something. If I have the creative freedom, is what we call this, the customer is giving me creative freedom. He tells me to, you know, just design it, go with whatever you think looks right. He trusts my taste, if you will. So, and I appreciate that. So I like to take the time and take it serious about, you know, proportions and just make it look all right. And that's where this time is spent right here. This is the most important part, is the drawing and the prep. Because once I decide on my measurements and the drawing, I'm cutting my pipe and I essentially can't change anything unless I want to start all over, get more material, yada yada. So creativeness, the creative process of building custom things. All right, so what I've decided to do on my end pieces is I'm just gonna come straight across right here, just slightly above where my diagonal piece meets my upright. This is my vertical piece, this is my diagonal piece. I'm just come slightly above it. I'm gonna square it off and I'm just gonna cap that smooth. That way it's like a clean look. And then I'm gonna 45 the ends like so. That's going to be 45. This is going to be 45. And this here is going to be 45. So it's going to be clean looking. So I've got my measurement for my two end pieces, and those are the pieces I'm going to start with. 74 1/4 straight cut, but then on one end I'm going to have a 45. And then on this piece we got 50 1/4 inches, but it's going to be 45 on each end. So I'll cut them two, and then I'll cut this bottom piece right here with 45s on each end. And those are the three pieces that I'll start with, get them all level, and then cut my diagonal piece and fit it up right here in this corner. Cope it to go around like so. That's what it'll look like. And then this piece here, or up here on this diagonal piece, it'll look something like that. Yeah, buddy. Check this out. Y'all haven't seen the back of this truck in a while, have you? So I went and done a stainless job yesterday. Just made like one weld at a restaurant, and I loaded my TIG 200 over here on the back of my truck. That's what I take to do TIG jobs. But the back of my truck, I don't even think I show it very often, but you can probably just see it in most of my videos, is usually piled full of stuff. So for one, I unloaded my chop saw because I hardly ever use it, and I'm finding out that whenever I go to do jobs, I'm normally loading stuff that I need for that job anyway. So I got to thinking, for my style of work and like my business model and working by myself, I don't necessarily need to have, and it's not like I'm like a service welder, or maintenance. Like, I don't get called frequently to do like repair work while I'm out. Like while I'm out on a job, I don't get a phone call like, hey, I need you over here ASAP to fix this. All that to say, I don't necessarily need to carry the material that I like to carry on hand. Hinge material, just extra plate, just stuff to be ready to do any like on-demand work. And as much as I like having that stuff on my truck because I want to be ready, I very rarely use it, and it just drives me crazy and makes my TIG situation more complicated to load whenever I gotta have all that. And I've talked before about my OCD or whatever. I'm not diagnosed OCD, but it just bothers me whenever I go to try to load that stuff and there's just a pile of junk back there. So I cleared it off and it makes me feel good. Yeah, I cleared it off, put my jumper cables up there, hung them up there because I love having them on hand, because that's like an emergency situation, whether somebody else needs a jump or it's myself or whatever. Those are just super happy to have on hand. Handy, not happy. Super handy to have on hand all the time. And then I done the same thing with my extension cord. Just got it up here nice and tidy, and I was able to put my little TIG 200 up here, about less than 50 pounds. I don't know how much it weighs. Argon bottle, my bag with my leads, and then my tubes of TIG wire over there on the other side. It was like super clean. Oh, and then I threw my cart. So I take my TIG machine off my cart, load it on the truck, take my long leads off because this is a TIG/stick machine. So whenever it's in my shop, I like to have them long leads on it in case I need to stick weld anything. But I take the long leads off, load the little welding machine, load the tubes, load the argon, and then this front part of my rack actually pulls up off of here and just slides down into them little pieces of pipe. So I can pull it off, load it, and then load the cart by itself. And then here's my TIG torch and regulator, ground, my shorter ground. That way I don't have to have 100 foot of ground, just my shorter ground lead, all in my bag there that I throw on the back of the truck also. So anyway, it just feels super clean. Feels good to not have a whole bunch of junk back here. Anyway, back on track. What I'm getting in here for is my template for 4.5 inch. So what I like about these red templates is, for one, they're spring loaded, and then it has a 4.5 to 4.5 saddle, but then it also has the 45 measurements built in right here, 45 and 22.5. So to get a 90-degree angle, which I'm going to need on my gate, I'm going to mark this 45-degree angle. I'm actually going to leave this square. I'm going to pull my measurement to the other end for my first one here, which is, yeah, that one needs a straight one. So my longest piece, 74.25. I'm going to pull from the straight side, that way I don't waste this straight cut right here. I'm going to pull 74.25 inches. And I'm actually going to go about an 1/8 inch shorter, just because, due to my experience, whenever I'm torch cutting like 45s, torch cutting anything really, and I'm trying to get a precise measurement, really even if I'm using a chop saw, whenever you go to join your pieces, you can cut it exactly the measurement you want, and when you put it together, you'll actually end up a little bit longer than the measurement you wanted. So I'm going to go an 1/8 inch shorter to account for the joining of the pieces, more or less. But I wanted to make a straight line first, about an 1/8 inch shorter, and then I'm going to take my 45, put it on like so. Get you a little bit closer so you can see. So there's my 74 1/4 mark, but I just eyeballed about an 1/8 inch back, made a straight mark. Then I'm now going to take the end of my 45, which is right here, and I'm going to line it up just like so. And now that I'm doing this, I'm realizing I did not have to do that straight mark. I could just line it up right through this little window here. So I'm going to line that up. I'm going to go ahead and mark my 45. Now obviously the bad part about that specific template is you're going to have some windows like right here, but I'll just eyeball it, connect it, and do the same on these other two gaps. Erase that line so we don't accidentally cut it. Get a couple more jack stands to put underneath here to catch my pipe, and then go ahead and make our first cut. Of course, I'm going to take the time to clean my tip. For all of you that have asked about a plasma cutter, I am fixing to get serious about getting one. I still don't know if I would use it in this situation. I guess I might once I got used to using it. I'm just such a torch guy because I've used one for so long. But I definitely know the advantages to a plasma cutter. Whenever I worked at Stillwater Steel right after high school, we used one like way more than we used a torch, just because in that shop environment and having a brake press and making like toolbox lids and stuff, we would always, just like a basic toolbox lid, you got to notch the corners out obviously to bend your lips up, and we always used the plasma. It was just so much cleaner, because as long as you use a plasma and take care of the tips on the end and not get into your metal, it stays cleaner a lot longer and it makes a cleaner cut. As long as your plasma is taken care of, is what I'm getting at here. Your plasma makes a cleaner cut without as much, I don't want to say skill, but like, I mean, if your plasma tip's sure enough dirty, you're still going to get lots of slag on the back like you do with the dirty torch tip. But I'm just saying, it's generally a cleaner cut with less effort. I'll just say that. But all that, and what I really was getting at and want to get to, is aluminum. I don't know if y'all seen that fuel tank on my table in there, but that's an aluminum project. And I do run into aluminum projects from time to time, and it's getting to the point now where I actually need to invest in a plasma, because you cannot cut aluminum with a regular torch like I'm using here, for those of you who may not have known that. So I do need to invest in a plasma. There are alternative options for cutting aluminum. I think I've talked about it in a couple of videos. If not, I'll say it here. You can use a drill, obviously. You can use a jigsaw. You can use a zip disc. So I mean, there's options, but like for this particular project, those options are not going to be the best for me in this situation. So it's just, like I said, it's just time to for me to invest in one. Let me know in the comments what you have had better luck with as far as a plasma. Like what brand? Miller, Lincoln, Hypertherm. What have y'all found to be the best bang for your buck, if you will. All right, clean as a whistle. Get my torch hose stretched out here. Get some more jack stands. One here, one here. That is the noise that we want. Start down here on the side. I'm gonna try to keep my torch straight with like this angle the whole way, just like a chop saw would do, if that makes sense. That's always my goal. Doesn't always work out that way, but it's always my goal. I'm gonna try to stay in the line versus like pulling out this way or that way, because I'm gonna try to use this same cut as a 45 for another piece. Whoa. Bada bing, bada boom. It's got to be the oldest saying ever. Bada bing, bada boom. 74 1/4, which is exactly what we want. But I've also got a bevel on this factory end down there, and I will end up taking a grinder to this. I'll clean it up, and then I'll actually end up putting like a bevel on this corner. That way, whenever I make this weld on my gate, it'll essentially be like full penetration. All right, so 74 1/4. Next one is 50 1/4. With 45s on both ends. So in theory, I should be able to use this 45, pull down to 50 1/4. Make sure my 45s are lined up, mostly using my eyeball. You can always use a center finder if you're not sure, but making sure it's rolled straight, making sure this is rolled straight. Then again, I'm going to make sure it's an 1/8 inch shorter. That way, whenever I join them, ideally it's going to be the proper measurement. BA to the his A. Absolutely love it. We're gonna call that a wrap on this video. We'll pick up right here where we left off next Friday, 5 o'clock Central Time. Every Friday, 5 o'clock Central Time, you can come here and find a new video. My advice for this week is trust your gut. Go with your intuition. Go with what feels right. This can go for every aspect in your life. If you're unhappy doing what you're doing, change what you're doing. Take a chance, go out on the limb, shoot for the stars, because you won't ever know unless you try. And don't forget to send the word work through text message at this number if you're interested in working with us on anything that we have going on that you are super passionate about. Or you can also text that same number saying that you want notifications about anything that we have going on. Thanks again for joining me today. Have a great weekend, and remember, learn something every day.